Summary. In Summary of Desert Solitaire by Edward Abbey, he shares his thoughts of when being a park ranger at Arches National Park. He was a park ranger 2 seasons, 1956 and 1957. He writes the reading as a journal and shares the adventures he goes on. Some adventures he goes on are rafting, finding a wild horse, and hiking on rocks. In this book, Abby also faces many challenges like food shortage, heat wave, water shortage, isolation, and animals.
Bio of the author. Edward Abbey was an American writer who loved the wild outdoors, especially the deserts of the American Southwest. He was born in 1927 in Pennsylvania, but he really found his true passion when he moved out west and became inspired by the beauty around him. Edward worked as a park ranger in places like Arches National Park in Utah. This is where he got the ideas for his most famous book, Desert Solitaire. In it, he wrote about the beauty of the desert and why it's important to protect it. Abbey had a big personality. He was funny, stubborn, and didn't like people messing with the environment. Some people thought he was a little wild and crazy, but that's part of what made his writing so powerful and exciting to read. Edward was married 5 times and had 5 children, which influenced some of his views on family and life, even though his writing often reflected on the solitude of the wilderness. Edward passed away when he was 62 in 1989. He is still remembered as a voice for nature and the desert. He wanted everyone around him to see how amazing the natural world is and keep it safe.
Historical context. In 1968, Edward Abbey published the book Desert Solitaire. The book is about his 2 summers in 1956 to 1957 he got to spend as a park ranger working the Arches National Monument in Utah. While he was working there, uranium mining was becoming a popular money grab with the discovery by Charles Steen in 1952 of a very large uranium deposit in Moab, and by 1956 Steen had created the Uranium Reduction Company. During the time that Abbey worked at Arches National Monument in 1956, the Federal Aid Highway Act was signed, which made many of the main U.S. highways to be constructed. In 1957, there were many civil rights changes in the CCR, so the Commission of Civil Rights was enacted with the Little Rock Nine.
Desert Solitaire takes place in Arches National Park in Utah, deep in the dry desert of the American Southwest. Edward Abbey lived there alone as a park ranger, surrounded by many towering red rocks, huge stone arches, and quiet open land that felt almost untouched. Even though the desert can seem super empty, Abbey saw it as full with beauty. This is the most beautiful place on earth. There are many such places. Every man, every woman carries in heart and mind the image of the ideal place, the right place, or the one true home, known or unknown, actual or visionary. Abbey 20. This quote from the text is the first we see, and I think it's important to note that the first thing Abbey wants to tell his readers is that the desert is beautiful and feels like home. To Abbey, the desert wasn't just a setting in his book, it was one of the biggest parts of his life. Standing there, gaping at this monstrous and inhumane spectacle of rock, and cloud, and sky, and space, I feel a ridiculous greed and possessiveness come over me. I want to know it all, possess it all, embrace the entire scene intimately, deeply, totally, as a man desires a beautiful woman. Abbey, 34. The setting of his book truly meant everything to Abbey, inspiring him continuously to share his deep love for the desert with others. Protecting the environment. One of the most apparent themes in Desert Solitaire is that the nature is worth protecting. Edward Abbey shows us that the desert is far from empty. He is constantly showing it's alive with beauty and wildlife. He wants others around him to slow down and truly see the value of these places. His time as a park ranger made this mission personal for him, turning his environmental beliefs into a daily responsibility. Arches National Monument is meant to be, among other things, a sanctuary for wildlife, for all forms of wildlife. It is my duty as a park ranger to protect, preserve, and defend all living things within the park boundaries, making no exceptions. Even if this were not the case, I have personal convictions to uphold. Ideals, you might say. I prefer not to kill animals. I am a humanist. I'd rather kill a man than a snake. Abbey, 67 through 68. This powerful quote reflects Abbey's deep belief that protecting nature isn't just an option. For him, it's a moral stance and obligation. He isn't only expressing his own convictions, but also is trying to persuade others to care and protect the land. Throughout Desert Solitaire, this message repeats as a large theme that wild places matter, and it's up to all of us to defend them.
The Husks. The Husk family is a family that got into a share of the uranium mines with Mr. Graham. Graham then kills Husk, the dad, and cheats with his wife. During the dad's killing, Billy Joe, the son, ran away but then later died in the hospital. When his wife got back home, she then got everything like the barn and money from the mine shares. I think this chapter is a major theme due to the greed and dishonest family in this chapter. The disasters in this family, I believe, can be a history for the desert and can remain there. The quote explains about the correlation and how things were getting heated before the killing happened. And the quote is, "He knew that his father was unhappy, even angry with Mr. Graham, and the tone of the argument did not soften when Mr. Graham unzipped his left-hand pocket of his jacket and produced a half pint of whiskey, which he passed to Billy Joe's father." Abby, 73.
Moon Eye. In the book, there is a horse named Moon Eye. This horse has inflammatory eye disease that is more commonly called moon blindness, hence the horse's name. Edward in this book took a huge amount of time to go back to find Moon Eye. When he did find him, he tried to tame this now wild horse. Quote, "He looked like the idea, without the substance, of a horse." Moon Eye had been wild for 10 years at this point. He had little interest in humans, but Abby tried to find the horse a home. In the book, there is a recurring part where Abby tells an animal he will not harm it. He just wishes to be its friend. Everyone deserves a friend. Abby doesn't ever say it directly, but from the way he talks and acts around the animals in his story, he believes they are equal or no less to him and they deserve a friend. The significance is that Abby made a point to show that he was a friend, and even if we don't look the same or even the same species, we could be friends. Everyone needs friends. Moon Eye is portrayed as a miserable horse that has no friends. The reflection. Our learning process was reading from the book to learn more about nature and the history of Arches National Monument. We were able to learn about how Abby's life was changed by nature and how much our lives can be shaped by embracing nature. For us, the most challenging thing was changing our views of the national parks and how we interact with them. It was also hard to think about the parks before items like cell phones became a huge thing, or even without the cars we have now. Quote, "No more cars in national parks. Let the people walk or ride horses, bicycles, mules, wild pigs," unquote. Because of the book, our ideas and the ways that we think about national parks has changed, and instead of something we just admire, they are things that we should protect. And we should aim to leave them better than we found them. So like Abby says, we should pick up any trash or steak flakes so the lands can't keep being used for industrial purposes. A big question is how much has Arches National Monument changed in the last 70 years since he worked there. We also questioned if he was able to pass away in the company of his family or if he got to work in any other national parks.